Whoop, whoop, whoop. Here we go. So, um, hello, everybody.
Hi, Erin here.
Tanya here. And we're going to be playing with a little something called How You Do Anything is How You Do Everything today. And so we're going to do a little role reversal today. Erin's in the hot seat. She's had some things going on. And I am in a healing space today, a little more slow than my usual, like energizer bunny self, and just embracing some of that today. So being in alignment with that part of me. And so I want to invite us first. If you're driving, maybe save this for later, at least this part of the exercise. We always like to start out our podcast coming together. And today I'm going to title this little coming together as Aloha, because in the Hawaiian Islands, in the culture of Hawaii, aloha can mean hello or goodbye. And sometimes we meet each other coming and going. And today, Erin's on one side of the fired up, ready to go spectrum. She's the Energizer Bunny today. And I am sort of the chilling out, moving into a position of rest. So I just want to invite all of you to notice where you are in your body today. Are you feeling like you normally feel? Are you feeling a little out of sorts? Are you leaning into allowing yourself to just feel whatever it is that you're feeling in your body? Or are you resisting that? I personally usually want to take a shower and get myself all ready to go for these podcasts, sort of like setting my energy and setting the tone. And today, my healing body said it just needed to rest. And Erin was in the gym, fired up with a workout, expressing what she needed to express energetically. So, aloha, everyone. Just notice wherever you're at in your body and show up as you are. So, I'm going to have us just close our eyes for one breath, turn our attention inwards. Notice where we are at right now. And as in the perfect words of Kurt Cobain today, come as you are.
I want to say that a lot of people think aloha is only hello and goodbye. And of course, what it really means is love. So, as always, which is a perfect roll into who University's values and who we are and what we stand for.
Yeah.
It is unconditional love, right?
Unconditional love, unconditional empowerment, and playfulness. Like
very much so.
Unconditional playfulness. Like
Yep.
all of the everything is okay, everything is safe here. Those are our highest values that we live by, that we work by, that we do everything by. And so, when we were actually starting the very early formation of Who University, we were exploring those values. We were exploring what that meant to us. And initially, we started out with a much larger group of people, wonderful people, valuable people, people that we appreciate and enjoy. And there were a lot of different value sets, and everyone was trying to bring their individual values into the equation. And so we had a little bit of a challenge initially when we were talking about values, because we have our values as individuals. Just so happens that my values, as well as Erin's values as individuals, are very much in alignment with who university as its own entity, as its own being.
Yep.
Um, and so, what were some of the challenges? Will you share with our listeners what some of the challenges were when we were initially setting up Who University? And one of the things that was a sticking point for you, if you will.
I think, everyone was kind of, you can have like a laundry list, just like feelings, right? Like you can have a
Mhm.
laundry list. But I think like at the base of our emotions, whatever they are, it's like love and fear. Like they kind of get grouped into those two things.
Mhm.
And I think everyone was trying to show their own individuality. And a lot of those were kind of under the heading, if you want to call it, or an umbrella of unconditional love, playfulness. Like I think curiosity falls into playfulness, right? It's just
Mhm.
like, and it can fall into unconditional love. Like there's just so many things. And so just watching, and I think there was a lot of like, get it right,
Yes.
energy. It has to be this way or that way. And I am a simple girl. And I was like, three. Like, who's gonna? I'm not taking out a little, like, let me look at my values.
Like
Um,
Santa's Christmas list. Who's been naughty? Who's been nice? Who's done the right
yes,
way, the wrong way,
yeah.
right? All the
Like
judgments. Yeah.
the point of having values is for you to know them, embody them, live by them. Like, not
Mhm.
like, oh, wait, I don't remember. We did that exercise when we started our business, but let me check in and see where, what they are. Like,
Yeah.
no, unconditional love, playfulness, empowerment. Like, that's it. Like, that
Yeah.
is encompasses everything, right? At least that's what I believe, right?
Yes.
And so lots of like rightness, righteousness, um,
Wrongness. Like,
wrongness. Yeah. And like, I think there's a lot of wanting to be seen, right? Like
mhm.
wanting to add the value, you know, and we're all valuable. Like we don't have to do a damn thing. Right. And so
Yep.
there was just a lot of that. And I think that at that time, it was what, a year ago already.
Yeah.
I kind of I look at, I mean, I had the experience of being, even though with my dad and my uncle, I wasn't legally a partner because I chose, was like, no, thank you. I do not want to be legally. I want to be able to walk away at any time, truth be told. But I was very much energetically, emotionally a partner. And so I had the contrast, and I was just like, time out. We're trying to do these things and we're not all on the same page. Like,
Yep.
we don't need a business plan. We don't need values. We don't need all of the,
Mission statement and
no, we don't need any of that stuff that needs to design the interior design of the house. We need to
yep.
know, are we buying, if you're a construction person, are we buying number 7, number 8 rebar, which is like 1-inch rebar, right? Like we want the thick, good rebar, the heavy PSI concrete. We want, all of the, um, not crushed stone, but the stuff that you lay down before, you do like your padding and all of that. Like we want solid foundation. And we're trying to
Yes.
design a house when we haven't even let the concrete cure yet. And
Correct.
so that's kind of where I put the like brakes on everything. And what I was feeling in my body was very much like, this is not in alignment with the way that Erin wants to do business. I've had
Mhm.
beautiful contrast of how I've done business in the past. So grateful, right? And now I know what I want. And we've talked about this on previous podcasts. Sometimes we have to go through like the litany of what we don't want to know
Yep.
what we do want. But now I am very clear what I want. And energetically, it was a no for me. And that is not a, those people are wrong. Those people, it was just like, I love all of you and I'm out. Right.
Yep.
So, and of course, having the courage to say those things when everyone else was like, I'm in, I'm like, here I go again, me on the island. And I remember you being like, what if you're not on the island? What if you, like by you speaking your truth, you honoring yourself, you allow others to feel the same or to feel how they feel, right? Which might
Mhm.
be similar to you. So,
Yeah. So the experience that we had, and one of the things that I appreciated so much, Erin, about what you did on that retreat is not only did you have the courage to speak your truth, um, then the first day that we were sort of organizing the experience, um, we were all coming together. Some of us had ideas about how you're supposed to do business. We're, trying to tick off some of the boxes. Okay, we need to, bring together our values. We need to bring together all these things. And we were trying to force it a little bit, like to make
Some of
it,
us were. Erin,
yeah,
Erin for sure didn't force it. I think that was probably part of the rub because
yeah,
Tanya and Erin were like, we're not forcing it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and that was part of the issue.
yeah. So the conversation that we had had that night, afterwards, when we just sort of like tabled everything, it's like, all right, let's come back to this tomorrow. And you had your wave to ride that night with how you were feeling emotionally. You were noticing some anger come up. You were noticing some feeling of like, I don't like this because, it's like we're who we are 24/7. And it's not okay to just like show up on Sunday and here's the person that I am on Sunday, or for the family photo, or for this or that, right? But then
Yep.
all the other time, I'm not living that way.
Yes.
So your courage to speak up and say, listen, I have to be a no here. And I was like, I'm not doing this without you, girl.
Well, my fear was if I said no, right, you weren't going to do it with me, and you and I weren't going to do it together, and that was a true, real fear.
Yeah. And the courage that it took for you to speak up and to say, if
Lots.
this is the condition, I'm a no.
I'm a no.
And
Yeah.
like, I, in that moment, I looked at you and I was just like, fucking wow.
And
Um,
I'm like, I still feel my heart beating a little bit for
I can
that,
feel it over here too, right?
for that Erin a year ago, man.
Yeah. And I loved what you said. You were like, and for me, this experience, if I'm going to do this, it's like, it's like we're getting married.
Oh,
It's like
that's what I
we're,
said.
yeah. And, um, and I love that you brought up the essence of something that my friend Patty Jones has said a number of times. Like, how you do anything is how you do everything. And the more healing that you and I both do, we see it show up with our clients. We see it show up with people when they're struggling, when like maybe their values are not in alignment with what they're being asked to do, or they're interfacing with someone that say their values are one thing, but yet the energy is not in alignment with that. Like we're seeing other things that are kind of indicating that something is amiss here, something is a mismatch.
Yep.
Um, and oftentimes this mismatch will come from fear. Like I think about
Mm-hmm.
the Tanya that I was even a year ago. I was like, damn, this girl's got some balls that she would just be like, I'm a no. And um and thinking of all the times in my life where I wanted to be a no, but I didn't feel safe in my no. So
Yep.
I didn't have that.
Yeah.
And so I would oftentimes compromise myself,
Yep.
say yes when I didn't want to say yes, or
Yep.
um, say no and not mean it.
Yeah.
Like, not have the, like, there was so much fear behind that. So, one of the reasons that we talked about having this podcast is because you, Erin, had an experience while your parents were visiting,
Mm-hmm.
and with your daughter that was previously you were doing homeschooling with when you were
Mm-hmm.
in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, would you like to share a little bit about sort of like the before of looking at the school with your daughter and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So we've always said, I mean, Grayson, when we were in Texas, when she was in first and second grade before COVID happened, we kind of went to it was kind of like a dual school. Like you homeschool 2 days a week and then you went to school 2 days a week. and she dug it. She liked it. And towards the end of second grade, I was just noticing some more like herd mentality, for lack of a better word. And I was just like, I'm not digging this. This is not what I signed up for in first grade. Like, this is changing. And so I was already kind of feeling like, and then COVID happened and they wanted to do like second graders to be on Zoom. And Grayson was like, I'm not doing that. And I'm like, I got you, girlfriend. So we just ordered homeschool books and just rolled into third grade and just did that for, 2 years, basically.
Yep.
And Jason and I, my husband and I, have always said our lifestyle is not ever imposed on our daughter. We are currently plant-based and we have chosen to be that way. And we have always said if Grayson wants to eat meat, she wants to eat whatever, she gets to have whatever she wants. I'll cook it for her. I'll do all the things, right? I'm not infusing my beliefs into our kid. That goes the same for school. If she ever wanted to go to school, we would support her and allow her to make that decision. And also, we were very clear that, like, listen, if you go to school, they're going to have some rules that maybe mom and dad don't really abide by at our house. And you're going to need to decide if you want to play the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
That might be, homework. That might be what you wear. That might be all kinds of things, right? And so I was very clear with her, and she said, I think I want to go to this school when we moved here. And I said, okay, you want me to schedule a meeting? And so we did. And we met with I'll call a headmaster. I don't know, principal. I don't know how it goes. It's such a little tiny
Right.
school. And what was fascinating is at the time, the headmaster was very almost clear for Grayson, like wanting to ask Grayson these questions, which, I love. Like, don't ask me the questions. I'm not the one that wants to go to school. Our kid does. And she
Yeah.
said, like a lot of times we have parents that want the kids to go to school and they don't want to go and they don't want to be here. And we don't want that environment. And I'm like, hell yeah. Right.
Exactly.
I support that. So Grayson says, well, what's the dress code? And she proceeds to say, shorts, don't be wearing crop tops. But that's it. That was the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, Grayson, you want to go to school or not? So Grayson is emotionally defined and she rides her wave. She'd already kind of been going to this like homeschool 2 days a week place. She'd already developed some friends. It's just straight up outside for 6 hours, So she had said yes to this school. And then she was like, oh, but I have my friends. And then she rode the wave of like, I'm not going. And then she rode the wave of like, well, then she found out that homeschool group wasn't going to be going 2 days a week. And I was like, and also you're making decisions on if these other friends are going, you need to be making a decision from yourself. Do you like to go, whether no one shows up or not? Right. And she was like, and it's only 2 days a week. And then what am I going to do the other two? I'm like, you're going to do school with dad or mom, So she kind of came back around and was like, I want to go to school. And I said, okay, then we'll go to school. So last week, go ahead.
I was just going to say, side note, if this is the first time you're listening to this podcast, or even if you're just like have a few, Erin and I follow, study, utilize human design as a tool, human design and what's called gene keys. And when Erin's talking about her daughter needing to ride her wave,
Thank you.
there are some of us that are half of us are what's called emotionally defined. That means our emotions are there for us consistently. And then there are the other half of us that are emotionally undefined. So we sort of have like this open bowl that we will feel other people's emotions and sometimes like take them in, try them on, amplify them, and play with them. So both Erin and her daughter are emotionally defined. So their emotions are always there consistently for them, and they need to give themselves a hot second, sometimes more. Like my husband needs more than a hot second, like a hot week, sometimes a hot month, right? To think of how he feels about something, and then to sort of go through the whole process of, when we talk about riding the wave of, maybe I don't feel good about this, maybe I do feel good about this. And some of you may notice in your own life moments where you're like, I'm a hell yes for this. And then afterwards you're like, oh shit, I should have given that a little more thought, a little more time. Right. So anyway,
Yeah. And she's
so
a defined will. So make no mistake about this. I know Grayson is her name, right? I know exactly what I want. Do not try to change my mind, right?
yep.
So, um,
So you're looking at all of the information and what was the
mhm.
school saying about who they were as a school?
I don't think we had looked, maybe we had looked at the handbook then, but basically around like we very much in alignment with who Jason, Erin, and Grayson are. Empowerment, individuality, creativity, um,
Uniqueness.
uniqueness. Like, yeah, I mean, they don't have a normal school model. Like several classes are together. Um, they each kind of I don't want to say test, but assess where you're at. And I mean, if you are on a higher math grade level, you're going to be doing higher math. There's no need for you to be in fifth grade math if you're on a seventh grade math level or whatever it might be, right?
Yep.
So based on what I saw, what was told, I was like, okay, I'm cool with this. Grayson, you good with this? She was like, yeah, I like it. And she was like, Mom, I'm really going for the friends. And I'm like, I totally get it. Right. Like, because I
Mhm.
also kind of have, I call it air quotes, lazy parenting in the sense of like, really, when you're in fifth grade, as long as you can do your math and it doesn't have to look like sitting down and doing, Saxon math worksheets, right? Like,
Yep.
and you can read and you can write everything else. Like we are a life family, right? Like
Mhm.
life is the best teacher. Um, so when
That
she's
goes
like,
into
Mom,
that value of playfulness, right? When
yeah,
we learn from a place of play
yeah,
versus you'll sit down and do your
yep,
work, it's
yeah.
a whole different experience.
Which is
Continue.
fascinating as a side note, because I've had a lot of parents reach out to me and be like, how do you get Grayson? I'm like, we don't do things she doesn't want to do. And not from a like, oh, we never make her feel, or she never feels uncomfortable. But when she was digging Legos, she would design and build Legos for 3 or 4 hours. And that is what she would do.
Mhm.
And I've always said about kids, like we don't, and adults, we don't need motivation. When our desire, when our drive is there for what we're interested in, we more than often than not have plenty of energy to do it. So, and there's other ways that, we talk about if you want to buy something, she's got to figure out the change. There's so many ways to learn besides let's sit at a desk, let's make you do these sheets. So we're
Yep.
kind of the the non-traditional learning parents, right? If you want to call it that.
Mhm.
So school starts. Well, first of all, there was nothing in the handbook about dress code. And my mom and my dad were visiting from Texas. And my mom was like asking, because this is also bringing up stories of when we went to private school. She's like, what is the dress code? And I'm like, just no super, super short shorts and like no crop tops. That's it.
Mhm.
And she's like, well, what if we buy something and she can't wear it? I'm like, then we'll address it at the time. Right. So my mom's like wringing her hands about this. And Grayson's like, I know exactly what I want. I've been to Target. I've been to Macy's. I've already picked out my things. Like I'm ready to rock and roll, Nana. So they go and they buy all the clothes that she wants to wear. And
Mhm.
the first day rolls in and Grayson is already concerned about, she wore these super cute black, um, what are they called? Not whole jeans, but um,
Distressed.
okay, I guess like there was elastic in there, so they're not holes, right? But it's just
Yeah.
like, kind of like the fad right now. And she was concerned that her teacher and the headmaster was going to say something. And my mom that whole day was so stressed. And I was like, listen, it is what it is. Like they get to say what they want and feel what they want, and we get to respond and we get to redecide.
Yeah.
So I,
And
so I,
we're talking clothes here. We're
yeah,
talking clothes here.
yes,
And so much with our society is all focused on the stress of the rightness or the wrongness and the stress that that creates. We're talking about clothes, people, not about whether or not she's going to be strapping on a knife or a gun or something like that as part of her attire.
we're talking about clothes and then we're not talking about clothes, right?
Right.
Okay. So she comes home and I'm like, hey, how are those jeans? She was like, oh, my teacher loved them. And the headmaster wants to know, where do I get them from? Or where she get them a pair? And I'm like, of course. Right. So anyways, the day goes on, or the next day, there was like a huge power outage in Maui. So no school, second day. And then third day, fourth day, and then fifth day. And then on the fifth day, the Friday, we get an email. I think everybody in Roots gets an email and says, basically, listen, no shorts shorter than your middle finger,
Mm-hmm.
no showing midriffs,
Mm-hmm.
no makeup,
Mm-hmm.
no fake nails. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure Grayson was the fake nail girl. There might have been some other kids, but for sure Grayson was wearing her fake nails all week
Mm-hmm.
long, right? And so
And little Erin, hold on just for a
mhm,
second, people.
mhm,
Little Erin, it's okay that you just said Roots.
I know. I'm like,
Mm-hmm. Because Erin is I'm going to worry about being responsible for everybody else. I don't get to speak my truth.
yeah, yeah. This is raw, real, and unedited here. And I was like, oh shit.
Yep, I saw it. I
See my
felt
face
it.
on YouTube. You'll like it.
Yeah, and it's okay.
Yeah. Thanks for
Like
that. Yeah.
you're just sharing your experience. So
Yeah.
please
Okay.
continue.
So we get the email and I don't say anything to Grayson because, it's Friday, whatever. So I was going to talk to her after we got a pedicure, but I call him dad, Jason, her dad, my husband, dad had already kind of said, listen, he read her the email and she's like, well, first of all, we'd already gone through some anger throughout the week of her feeling like, I don't want them telling me what to do. I don't like it. They don't say anything to the boys, all of the normal expectation of anger that you would feel when you feel like someone's doing something to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, give it to me, baby girl. Tell me all the things. Get it out, right? And then we talk about no one's doing anything to you. You always have a choice.
Yep.
You get to decide. This is kind of what mom and dad talked about. Like, this is the game. You want to play the game to go be friends for 30 hours a week? You get to decide, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on Saturday, she was like, I'm still wearing makeup. And I'm like, okay, then if you're choosing that, also know you might get sent home. You might get told you can't come back. Like there's lots of options that they might tell you because you're not adhering to what they want.
Yes.
So that is the topical, that is the surface.
Right.
Right. So really what this podcast is about is how we started at the very beginning, right? Is who we are. It is very important to Erin and Tanya. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're not
I
wrong.
never like to speak for my work wife, business partner, best friend, all the things, soulmate, soul, star seed, all the things. But who we are
Mm-hmm.
is who we are 24/7. So
Yes.
you get Erin who curses
Yep.
on a podcast, who curses in front of her child, who now her child sometimes says curse words. And I'm like, but you're getting all of it, right? You get Erin all the time. Same person.
Yep.
And help me with my words. It's not an issue. The discussion I would love to have
Yes.
with the school from a place of nothing but I've already been on my spin bike today.
Mm-hmm.
So I've already gone through my wave of, emotions and anger and crying and sweating it out and all the things, right? Thank you to my lovely Tanya and Erica for being there for me. And so from a place of nothing but curiosity and love, what you say in your handbook is very different than what you are acting from with the dress code.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious. And I think what Erin really wants to know is what our roots values?
Yeah.
And
And
my
I think
lovely, okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's a reasonable question to ask.
Yeah, yeah. My lovely husband loves to use my coaching back on me. And he's like, well, Erin, you always talk about you getting to redecide and everyone gets to make new decisions. And I'm like, 1000%.
Yep.
But let's be very clear on, you show me the playbook, I'll decide if I want to play the game or not. But right
Yeah.
now, it's like, I'm not a good football or baseball person, but it's like, oh, let me give you this playbook. Oh, no, no, no. Now we're playing this other game. Let me do this playbook. Oh, wait, but there's this people in the stands. Let me give you this playbook. Oh, well, so what playbook are we playing by? And that
Yeah.
is the conversation I think that I would love to have. And also knowing that lots of people live in lots of fear, right?
Yep.
And when we try to please everyone,
We
we for
please no
sure
one.
please no one, including the most important person,
Yep.
ourselves, right?
Yep.
So this is not about dress code. Like Erin could give two shits that Grayson wears long pants, a long baggy shirt, no makeup and whatever, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is very similar to Erin having to decide if she wanted a COVID vaccination to be able to go travel where she wanted to go. Did I want to
Yep.
play the game right then and there, right?
Yep.
And so it's all a game. And I don't mean it from like, oh, it's so light, so flippant, like no big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But nobody's making anybody do anything.
But for a lot of people, it
Oh,
feels
that
like
they
that, right?
fit for sure,
All
right?
that fear of you're either you're either someone that's pushing for conformity, for the
Yep,
homogenization, for
yep,
the like the herd mentality, we need everybody to get on board kind of thing, or
yep,
you're the pushed. You're the person who's like, if I'm going to be accepted, if I'm not going to, and this goes back to the root of our survival system as humans. It is coded into our biology to go along to get along.
yep,
It is coded into our biology to stay a part of the tribe. Um, and so we usually find ourselves on one side of the equation or the other. It's that I'm going to make everyone conform, that power
mm-hmm,
over, I need to get
mm-hmm,
people to conform. Or you might be like the victim side of it, the I don't want to conform, but I have to.
yep,
Um, and that, that brings up survival in people,
yeah,
and something over, what looks like a simple thing of clothing actually could come down to that survival, like the tribal mentality. Are you going to conform, or are you not going to conform?
yeah,
And that brings up the safety big time.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because Grayson and I, when Erin was 10 years old, and Grayson 10 now, are having almost the exact same experience from the opposite sides of the coin, right? I
Mm-hmm.
was at a place like I've talked about before when I was 10 and the money situation with my family, it was very much a stressful situation of what, the reason why I brought up such a visceral response with my mom is because the money was tight, not a lot, limited in my family during that time. And she was trying to please everyone,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get us to wear what the school wanted us to wear, trying to make it fit long enough so you didn't have to buy more. Just
So I
okay.
actually want to slow you down for a second here.
Okay.
Can you share with our listeners what happened with your mom? So your mom and your dad are on island. They bought clothes for Grayson. This whole thing
Mm-hmm.
comes up with the clothing
Mm-hmm.
and her being in violation of a dress code, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what was your mom's experience? What was happening for
Like
her?
present day,
Yeah.
she was angry. She was very angry, right? And we talked about this because I'm like, and I call her Nana, I'm like, Nana, the reason why you're angry is because you feel like and you felt like, right?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have a choice. And she was like, yes, I did not feel like I had a choice. And that's where the anger, I don't want to generalize, but we get angry because sometimes, right, we feel like we don't have a choice in the matter. And, from that visceral place, for her, when they spent money for private school, it
Mm-hmm.
was like we spent this money, you have to go, you have to use it. And for Jason and I, we're like, we spent the money, and it, like, the value that you are learning right now, Grayson, is worth every bit of the $10,000 we spent. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so giving her and empowering her to make a decision, never from a place of I've used or spent money,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's very important to us, because that is how I've lived my life, of making decisions based on the money, money more important than me.
Yep.
And so yeah, for my mom, it was very much like her feeling like she didn't have a choice. And I'm like, it's not a problem. Like, this isn't a problem. And the actual thing we need to be talking about is, what do we actually stand for? As what do you, the school, stand for? And let us, Jason, Erin, and Grayson, redecide if we're in alignment.
Yes. So where are you noticing the mismatch?
With the school,
Mm-hmm.
well, we say one thing and we do another, and that is not an alignment. That there's the conflict, there's the
I'm I'm asking this to try and have you like spell out for
oh,
people
forever.
because
Okay.
yeah, because there are some people, I mean, you and I do this work every day.
Yeah.
You and I have devoted our lives to living a life of transformation, to always being
Yep.
in the work, to always being aware of what's going on within us, what's going on outside of us as a mere reflective of what we are personally experiencing.
Right.
And so not everyone might be
Okay.
familiar with where are you seeing a mismatch? Like, where is there a problem?
So here we go back to values with Who University. If in their handbook they are saying they encourage creativity, individuality,
And uniqueness.
and uniqueness, telling people they have to wear certain things, in my opinion, is not uniqueness. It is, you can be unique as long as it doesn't make me feel uncomfortable.
And you
And I
fit in
need
this
you to be in this
box.
box, right? And here we
Yeah.
go back to, this is what I was going to say. So Grayson and I are having the exact same experience. I wasn't, I don't even want to call it in the popular crowd, or like my clothes weren't, and I mean, come on, we buy Grayson clothes at Target. Like, I am like the most what is it called? Brand name clothes kind of person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Grayson is kind of on the other side of too much. I was not enough.
Mm-hmm.
But the goal is to keep you in the box. If you're too much, that's not okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not enough, that's not okay either.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to keep you in this pretty little confined box so that you don't upset, bother,
Distract.
distract, which all of those things, no one can make you feel anyway, and no one can make you do anything. I know we've been taught that, right? We've been
Yep.
taught that someone hurts our feelings, someone makes us do something, but that is
You're
never the case.
responsible for how
Yep.
somebody else is feeling, and we cannot be. Mm-hmm.
So the and what I stand for, who I am 24/7, is I go first. And it's one of those things of, here we go back to, how you do one thing is how we do everything. So if we're doing it this way, there's going to be something else that's probably going to come up. Erin feels the desire to have a conversation early on, so we're very clear about where we stand,
Mm-hmm.
because it's kind of like, until you're ready to look at something, the universe is like, let me serve it up to you like this. Let me give you a different platter to
Mm-hmm.
experience it with. Oh, you didn't catch it that time. Okay, let me do it a different way, right? So it's
Let
just
me
going to
go
keep,
bigger. Let
yeah,
me go harder. Let me go
yeah,
more uncomfortable. Yeah.
yeah. So it's just going to keep coming up. And like I said, from a place of love, from a place of compassion for these people, right? Like, I
Hmm.
can't imagine if you're not like, and I'm assuming, I don't know this, I haven't talked to them, but if you are not so solid in who you are and what you represent, because this was Erin
Hmm.
years ago, I can see how the lines can get blurred.
Yeah.
And that is exhausting, right? It's
Yes, it
exhausting
is.
to try to meet all of the parents' needs, all of the children's needs, all of the teachers' needs, all of everyone, right?
Yep.
And I'm hoping, I'm setting the intention that the conversation is loving and empowering for them. Like, I would love it if they were like, listen, this is who we are. And even if it's not who we are,
Yeah.
because then we get to decide, right? That's like when you get to have real, honest, adult, emotionally adult conversations,
Yep.
you get to have two individuals or a group or however we want to, name it, that get to be empowered and get to decide what they want. And the
Yes.
goal is to not agree all the time. That's not what I'm advocating for. I am saying, listen, you tell me who you guys are. Grayson, this is who they are. You want to do or not? You decide, Gigi. And allowing her to make that decision
Yeah.
versus because,
Up
I've told her,
and empowering her to
yes,
make that
yes,
decision. How are we supposed to teach our children to be empowered to stand for what is important to them if we don't teach them by example?
yeah. And I've told her, I said, there will probably be parents when we've talked about this in previous podcasts, right? It's like swinging to both sides. That's not the goal. We want to be in the middle of like, okay, there might be parents that read that and are just like my mom, terrified, are not going to say anything, right? Going to force their
Yep.
kids to do all of the things. And then you're going to have parents that are probably like my dad, who are really angry that someone's trying to tell them what to do with their child and how to spend their money and all the things. And they
Hmm.
might come at them from anger, right? And what
Hmm.
I've told Grayson is we want to be in the middle. We want to obviously feel those emotions that we feel. We want to feel
Hmm.
disempowered. We want to feel anger. We want to feel frustration. We want to feel like someone's doing this to us. And we want to move through that, you know, um, feel that. And then we want to come from a grounded, a responsive, not reactive place. We
Hmm.
want to come from love. We want to come from curiosity. We want to come from empowerment,
Hmm.
playfulness, right?
Yep.
Like, it's clothes, right? It's not a big deal. And it is a big deal because here we go back to, again, how we're doing one thing is how we're doing everything. So,
Yep.
and having a very loving, grounded conversation.
Yeah. When we are able to know who we are, know what we want, to know what we stand for, um, and that can change too, right? we
Oh,
we
that's
can we can
all the
allow
time.
ourselves to always be in a space of changing and evolving when we are presenting our true selves, when we are presenting who we are in this moment and not trying to be something for everyone else. We're not trying to people please. We're saying, this is who we are. Like, this is the school that we wanted to build. And that has room to change and evolve. But this is who we are right now. And
Yeah,
maybe part of what we're seeing with the dress code is an evolution.
maybe
May-
so.
Maybe it's coming from fear. Maybe it's coming from, nope, this is something that, like, we don't want, like, this kind of uniqueness, or we don't want this expression of their individuality. Um, and so, this is who we are evolving or devolving, like, no
Mhm,
judgment, but just
mhm.
this is the choices that we're making.
Yeah.
When we present ourselves as our true selves, when we are able to know who we are, what we stand for, then we give others the ability to make that choice for themselves and to show up and say, yes, I choose you. Um, I'm even thinking about my, my relationship with you, my relationship with my husband. um, for a little while, we hit, I don't know if I'd call it a rough patch, an uncomfortable patch. We hit an uncomfortable patch. Um, and what I had to do was come into awareness of who he is. Like I had to see him clearly for who he is and choose what I was focusing on.
Yeah.
Um, like knowing that he loves me unconditionally.
Mhm.
And so realizing that sometimes, we're in a process of growth where maybe some other part of us is not really clear, finding that thing that is important. And so the reason I'm bringing this up, and Erin, help me if it needs a little bit more logic added to it, but it's like you being able to go to the school and say,
Mhm.
right, I'm seeing this, and
Mhm.
this is what pulled me in. And if you're telling me that this is who you are, then can we have a discussion about how this feels out of alignment? Can we have a give and take exchange
Yep.
about where this is feeling like it doesn't add up? Which is a very similar discussion that I had with my husband. Like, I know he is unconditional love. Are you in awareness? Like, it feels like a mismatch right now. You think that I, are you thinking that I don't want you to have what you want?
Yep.
Are you thinking that you don't want me to have what I want? No. Okay. So we had that discussion. It's like, all right, like dialing it in.
Mhm. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yes, it does. It's us being really clear. And I think you have so many, think of it as an onion. You have so many layers of conditioning,
Hmm.
right? And so it's not just like who we are, it's like spending the time to really not just remember who we are, but also get to the point of who we are is going to make it's not going to make a lot of people are going to feel uncomfortable when we finally show them who we are because we've been kind of wearing a mask, right?
Hmm.
So
Very much so.
when we take off the mask and they're like, wait a second, that's not who I signed up for, right? That's not who I married. That's not who I want to go to school. That's not who I want to work for. Like all of the things,
Hmm.
there's the fear there that if I truly show, which you talked about earlier, if I truly show who I am, I'm not going to be part of the tribe. And eons and eons ago, when you got kicked out of the tribe, that was for sure death, right?
Yep.
And we can slice it and dice it any way we want,
Hmm.
but at a genetic survivalist level, that is fear at its best, right?
Yep. Yep.
So it's not just this like, okay, I know who I am. It's like having the courage to show yourself to the world of this is who I am. And when we live in a world that we currently do, that is
Hmm.
very much right and wrong, good and bad, judgment,
Opinions.
opinions, all of which is what
Yep.
I think currently we don't live in an unconditional love world, right? Like
Nope.
there's for sure people who are unconditional love, but the majority is not unconditional love. It is conditional as long as you agree with me, side
Hmm.
with me, follow me, all the things.
Yep.
So that is a courageous thing for someone to work through,
Hmm.
especially if you aren't someone who's like us in a sense and others who are like, I'm signing up for this. I'm signing up for this uncomfortable path, right?
Yep.
There are people that choose not to, I don't know, I don't want to say evolve, but like the self help and like really go inward and kind of check in. There are people that don't want to do that. And when you get when there's nothing else but just a mirror to hold it up to look for you to look at yourself when you're like, I don't want to look at myself. I don't want to do that. It's everybody else's
Hmm.
problem. That's very uncomfortable for a lot of people. And I can
Yeah.
have such compassion and love for those people, because it's hard enough with tools that we have and that we use, right? Can you imagine not having any tools and then having to
Yeah.
make some modifications?
Been there, done that for a number of decades before I got to the place where I was like, I don't like this anymore. There's got to be something more than this. Like, there's got to be a different way to be. Um, so I admire that you're setting this example for Grayson, that you are allowing yourself to say, let's have a conversation, um, a courageous conversation. In fact, I just like calling it that. Like, these are
Yeah.
courageous conversations that we need to
Yep.
have.
And it's
Um,
very vulnerable, right? I mean, let's just be honest.
mhm,
I'm always like straight up raw and real. And like I texted you and Erica at drop off, and I'm like, my gut, I am so nervous. I feel it so much in my gut right now. Like I'm
mhm,
so like almost on pins and needles, walking on eggshells. Like, and of course, my kid's like, bye, see you. She's like, right. And our children are our greatest teachers, right? And
mhm,
so this is not, when I say I'm having a courageous conversation, this is not like, oh yeah, this feels good. Let's go do this, right? It's like, yeah, palms are going to be sweaty, underarms are going to be sweating, you know, gonna
mhm.
feel all the feels, right?
Gonna need
And
to
here
poop
we,
probably.
oh, for sure, right? And here we go back to, as we bring it home, am I willing?
Yes.
Yes, I am, right? Because who I am is someone who stands up for what she believes in, honors
Mhm.
herself, never betrays herself anymore. I'm gonna say never, right? Like that's the goal, right? I
That
don't
is
want to
the
betray myself.
practice.
That's the
That is
practice.
the
I don't want to say never
practice.
because it happens and I go back, right? But like the practice is I've committed to honoring myself, um, saying what I want, speaking my truth in a loving and compassionate way.
Yeah.
And here we go. Like, it's like, okay, you said this. Universe is like, let me serve it up to you. Let me make sure you're really committed, Erin. I'm committed, universe.
As am I, and I love that about you.
So
Yeah. So are you ready for that courageous conversation?
I'm ready. And here's the other thing, in full disclosure, it's like, okay, Erica and Tanya, can you read my email? And I want to make sure that the energy that I'm going to send, it is from love. Like, and if there is, and so grateful to have the two of you to have, bounce off of, right? Like this is, we need to have a whole podcast on friendships, but like this is the, how many people do this alone? We're not just saying, we don't have the tools, but how many people, parents do this alone, not just not having the tools, but maybe not having friends that they get to talk to about, right? Having
Not
families
having a
that are like,
safe,
you need to, yep, space.
yeah,
So I'm
not having
ready.
a safe space, not having the support of others. Yeah.
So
Th- All right, my
I'm
friend.
grateful. Okay. So until
I
next
am
time,
grateful as well. And until next time.
bye.